This is Japan Baseball Weekly, the only English podcast covering all 12 NPB teams. And now, your hosts, John E. Gibson and Jim Allen.
Hi, and welcome to the Japan Baseball Weekly podcast. It's for the week of September 7th. I'm John Gibson, and with me on a Sunday night is Jim Allen. How you doing, bud?
Good, man. How's it going?
Sleepy again. I don't know why, but I'm doing well. Nice
late Sunday night and another sleepy John.
Another sleepy John, but that's all right. We're going to be talking about baseball, so that gives me the energy I need.
Yeah, I think
right?
so. I can already hear you perking up, man.
All right, the coronavirus fight continues worldwide, and we continue to salute everyone on the front lines and everyone else and everybody who's doing their part. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yep, my niece included.
My niece included. All right. On this week's show, we've got a telephone chat with Seibu ace Zach Neal. We're going to look at Seibu. We're going to look at their league races, discuss Kyuji Fujikawa's retirement, and a whole bunch more. So let's start swinging.
Clearing the bases!
All right, so I did the interview this week for the first time in a while, so that was weird.
You've been doing like 90% of them anyway, so
I don't know about that, but it was different. So yeah, I set up a chat with Lions ace Zach Neal for Wednesday morning, and he's so gracious. He's the awesomest, as I like to say, especially when things work out for me. So I had actually contacted him the previous week, and I said, whenever you want. And he said, how about Tuesday or Wednesday? And I said, whenever you want. And he said, how's Wednesday at noon or 11:30? I said, whenever you want. And so they were on the road at Lotte. So they were out at Chiba. And he said they actually stay in a hotel out there as a team, even though it's fairly close. It's in the same Kanto region or greater Tokyo area. And they stay in a hotel. So he was out that way, and gave him a call, and we talked. And we probably could have gone on for a little bit longer, but probably we'll just have to have him back in about a month, especially since I expect the Lions to be involved in the PL chase for the playoffs. So anyway, Zach is in his second season with the Lions, and he put together a stretch of 13 winning decisions, and that dates back to last season. So Zach fell one win shy of Rick Vandenherk's record for consecutive winning decisions by an import pitcher. Vandenherk had 14. Zach finished at 13, or his streak was stopped at 13, and that was broken on July 31st at SoftBank. Picture that. But Zach did tie the record for import with his 13 consecutive wins on the team. So he tied the club record, and that was with what was the Express he was?
Yeah, that was, I'll try to pronounce it, Kuo Taiwan, and he was known in Japan as Taigen Kaku.
Okay, and what was his nickname?
The Orient Express.
Okay, it really was the Orient Express.
Sure, that's what they called him, and he was this just flame-throwing guy from Taiwan who came over here very young. He was and he was a Little League World Series hero. I guess that's where he came to fame.
Okay. So now Zach is similarly keeping the Lions in games the way he did last season. Not quite like he had on that magical run, but he's an obvious cog in the rotation, and he leads the team with 7 quality starts. And that's actually tied with some other guys for 4th in the PL. I think it was actually tied before today. I'm not sure exactly what went on today with the other guys. He did get the win on Friday, but he kind of got an early hook in a tight game, and Hotaka Yamakawa ended up adding some offense a little bit later after Zach left with a 3-run blast, so that helped out. But Zach has quickly become a friend of JBW. We love having him on the show. He gives us some insight, and we really appreciate it, so let's take a listen. All right, we're joined this morning by Zach Neal of the Seibu Lions, and I want to thank you again for always taking the time to join us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Always a pleasure.
All right, good to hear your voice. And first and foremost, how are you in this really weird coronavirus season?
Oh, man, things are going good. It's just a nice thing that we're able to play, honestly. And, lately fans have been introduced back into the game, so that was a nice kind of a uplift for all of us. I know for the fans especially. it's going good. We're halfway through right now. And, like you said, this coronavirus season has just been really it's really been an adjustment, just to the schedule and the timing of everything. And, now it's going to play a role in into the coming off season. So it's pretty crazy, but, so far everything's going good and, we're getting through it.
All right. Well, talking about crazy, I always look at your Lions team, and I think I've spoken to you about it a couple times and mentioned how difficult it is to get a read on you guys. So how do you evaluate your team so far this season? And you're laughing.
If you look at last season as well, we kind of are a slow starting team. Our pitchers, I think the pitchers especially this year, it's kind of been tough because of the 2-month break, and then we had like 3 weeks to kind of get it locked in and ready to go. So I think there's definitely a delay there, as far as, pitchers being completely sharp out of the gate.
Right.
And then I just think that we haven't clicked yet, and I think that's about to happen. I think I kind of feel it happening now. We just went into Rackton and beat them. We're starting to put together, a bunch of games with a lot of runs. And I think if you look last year, if you were going to compare teams, the one thing that you would say is the run production is a little lower this year. But I don't think that is going to be the case throughout the season. Like you mentioned, baseball and math, you have guys that produce at a high level for a long amount of time last year. And then, so that they're capable, and that is, the potential there. So I wouldn't necessarily write this team off. I have the utmost confidence in our pitchers. Our bullpen is really strong in the back end. And our hitters they're the best hitters in the league, So I feel something clicking now, honestly. And then I think it's going to be a fun 2 months. So I'm excited about it, and I think this league this is when it happens is in the second half. Everybody can get off to a hot start, but it's how you finish. That's what makes a championship team, and we are a championship team, and so we know how to do it. And I think that we're pretty primed to do that.
Yeah, definitely. There's no way in God's green earth I'm writing you guys off. Not at all. I don't care what's happening. So you have to worry about that. Now, you had your long personal winning streak broken, and look, I had a streak as a player, and so I know how you can start to have mixed emotions when you're approaching a game, like wanting to extend the streak, but also trying to execute and do what you're trying to do so that you can extend it.
Yeah.
So how did your winning streak start to impact you mentally?
It was such a crazy run. If you think about it, I think it was and it sounds silly to even say out loud, but, dating back to last season, I think it was 23 or 24 starts without a loss, so that, in the baseball mathematic world, or, when you look at percentages, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So you have to have a lot of good fortune, for something like that to happen. But you also have to pitch pretty well, and that is something that I was pretty proud of, for a long stretch. Even going into this season, I was giving the team a chance to win, and that's really all that I can do. But the streak, it just got to the point where, that was all anybody ever wanted to really, everyone was always talking about it. And, I did tie, the Pacific League International or foreign player record, so that's something that I'll always be able to hold on to, and something that is pretty remarkable when you step back and take a look at it. It's only been done one other time in the history of the league, so that's pretty cool.
Yep.
That's something that I can always have, and You know, so that was a really, really nice run, you know. But for me personally, I mean, I'm a realist, you know. I knew that wasn't feasible, and I knew that was, you know, eventually going to end. You know, let's be real with ourselves and realize what we're doing here for a living every day. And, you know, you can't win every game. You know, sometimes you give up more runs than you had intended on. You know, like, you know, my worst start this year against Atherton, I went 3 innings, and that was one of the best nights I felt all year. You know, so this is a really strange game that we, you know, subject ourselves to every once a week. You know, so for me, I knew that it was pretty unrealistic, and, you know, mentally I was always preparing for that adversity. You know, and I was going through a little bit of adversity, you know, this past month. You know, this past month and a half was a tough stretch, but that's the realistic part of baseball. You know, professionals at any level are going to struggle for a you know, small amount of time, and it's how you handle that. You know, and so for me, I was kind of always bracing for that. You know, realistically speaking. But the streak was cool, and, you know, that was something that I'll always have.
So what actually went through your mind when you lost that first game? Well, when the streak ended, you lost one other game last year.
Well, initially it was the fact that the SoftBank 8-hole hitter hit a home run, and he has 2 home runs all season. So that was talking about percentages again. A guy that, you know, plays every day and has 1 home run, hits a home run.
Right.
I was like, okay, this is meant to be over. If this guy just, you know, hit a home run off me, you know, it's like, all right, enough's enough. If the baseball gods are just kind of, you know, smiling down on me and saying, you know, all right, buddy, you've had your run. Now it's time to come back down to earth a little bit. And,
right.
You know, face some hard times. You know, so that. But when it was over, you know, I was a little, you know, upset, you know, because I didn't want that to end, you know, because that meant that I was losing.
Sure.
You know, but realistically, I knew it was inevitable. So it was kind of like a relief, kind of like a monkey off my back, you know. So it was fine, you know. Like I said, it was a really cool experience, and, you know, something that doesn't happen very often. So for the fans, and, you know, especially the Lions fans, that was cool for them to watch and be a part of. So it was all good.
Okay. Now, speaking of that, you got some remarkable teammates. I know you would probably say all of them, but I'm talking about a few in particular. But who is someone you just marvel at the most on your team, at what they do, not necessarily at their age, but you've got some veteran guys who are going out there and doing some things. Who are some of the guys you really marvel at who are productive on your team?
Oh, man. We have the way that Yamakawa makes baseball look when he's seeing the ball well and swinging it well.
Yep.
That I marvel at his ability to swing so hard and hit the ball so hard, and that is pretty crazy. And then, like on the other side of the infield, you have Nakamura, who's been doing this for so long, you know, and being my second year, you kind of start to realize, you know, there's not going to be any new teams popping up anytime soon. So a guy like Nakamura and Kiriyama, they have been doing this in the same league for the same team for, 18 years, 18 seasons?
Yep.
So I marvel at their ability, you know, to withstand time and to still produce, and, you know, that's pretty remarkable to me. You know, for anyone to do anything for 18 years and to do it really well for 18 years is pretty remarkable. So they, you know, those two guys are, you know, the ones that really pop into my head. Is like, wow, they've been doing this since I was 12.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't date them. Don't date them.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had 4 guys.
Just being around them every day is crazy.
Yeah. I actually had four guys in mind, and you hit three of them. The other one is Ernesto Mejia, who they just dust off every once in a while, and he comes out and produces. So he's a marvel as well. All right, so Kona Takahashi, he flirted with a no-hitter last night, but who's a guy you think on the pitching staff, whether it's a reliever or a starter, who's ready to just break out, you think?
I think, excluding myself,
we have to exclude you, yeah.
You kind of, yeah.
Apologies.
I would say, I mean, Kona has been putting together, a couple. I think that was his third, really good game in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Matsumoto, who's throwing on Sundays for us, has been really good. Those two young guys, I think, are poised to have a really nice second half. They've shown, promise lately, especially. So, I mean, I would say those two guys are ready to really, turn it on. And I think, those two guys, I think, are really in a good position to turn it on late here.
Okay. Yeah, I really like Matsumoto. I wonder when he's still new to the league, so I think when he puts it all together, he might have the best opportunity to produce a lot for them. Now, this will be the last question. You have had these 6-game series now, not necessarily this week. How does that really impact a starting pitcher who, for example, will throw later in that 6-game series, like the Friday, Saturday game? When you see all the games during the course of the week and how the pitching plan is working, and then you go out to the mound after, no matter what, regardless of the results of the games are, you go out and you have your plan. And I mean, how does that impact the whole putting the pitching plan together for those teams? And, how's that impacted?
It's kind of tough because I think, especially for us, we just got a lefty, Nolan, back in the rotation. So for a long time, it was a bunch of right-handed starting pitchers, 6 days in a row. So that can be kind of tough, and for a team to see, righties every day for 6 days, all starters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was kind of. I thought that it would be somewhat of an advantage, just because you could watch all the games and kind of see the hitters and see what our guys are doing against them. But I'm not sure it was that big of an advantage. I'm not sure it was a disadvantage, but I'm not going to say that it was like a big positive. I think now you're coming into the 3-game series again, so these teams don't have as good an idea as what you're going to try and do as a team against them, because we have team scouting report meetings. So we're throwing out the same ideas, for the whole team to pitch against their lineup. You know what I mean? So sometimes,
right,
through 3 games of a certain hitter, we're gonna pound him in. By the 4th game, he's realized that we're gonna pound him in, so he's starting to turn on that and sit on that. So I think it has to just, you kind of need an individual plan. But I'm kind of happy that we're not doing that anymore. The 3 games feels a little bit more normal, and you kind of just get sick of the team that you're playing for 6 days in a row.
Yeah, like brothers, huh?
Yeah, especially if you're having a bad series against them, and I think it just breaks it up. It's a little bit healthier.
All right. Well, there's a lot more we want to ask you, but we're out of time, so we'll just have you come on another. We'll break it up into two more sessions. We'll just have to have you back. All right?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem.
All right, Jim. Thanks again, Zach. Really appreciate your time.
Indeed.
And like I said, we will be calling you back maybe a couple times before the season ends. We'll see. But
I'm listening to your intro, and I'm thinking, how long has it been since we said we were at the park on such and such a day? I was going, oh no, I was feeling a little sad.
Oh, you're talking about the intro with the
interview. It's like we do them all on the phone now. It's kind of it's easy, but it's sad.
It's easy, but it's sad. It's not even that easy.
It isn't easy, but if you're disorganized like I am, and hey, there's somebody playing at the park, let's go get an interview. It works out well.
Yeah, imagine those days when and last year we actually had a week where we didn't have an interview because we couldn't get one, and we were at the park. That's just unfathomable now. I was like, I would talk to a tree right now if I could go to the park. Wow. The tree would really answer.
Wow, you'd be like in the remake of Paint Your Wagon.
All right, don't bring
stop
up.
talking to them trees, Gibson.
All right, what was kicking around in your head after you heard
a
this?
lot, but I'm going to limit it.
All right.
First of all, a little fact check. Anyone can get off to a hot start. It's how you finish. I love the little cliche there, which is, I guess, it's true enough. I mean, sure. I mean, it's how you finish, provided your start isn't abysmal.
Right. Yeah.
He did say that the Lions are slow starters. Well, they were last year. I don't know if they are in general, but they were last year.
Well, that's his frame of reference.
Yeah, indeed.
Years ago.
I'm glad you're not writing them off, because that's kind of a recipe for success. Because there's no value.
Or disaster.
There's no value in writing anybody off unless you're keen to demonstrate that you know less than you think you do, because things don't always work out. So
I am writing the Oryx Buffaloes off.
Ooh, okay, well,
and the Yakult Swallows, whom you wrote off last week. So
excuse me, I'm knocking things over here. Okay, so anyway, moving along, another thing is I love the quote. I love this quote. It's a really strange game that we subject ourselves to once a week.
Yeah, if you're a starting pitcher once a week. I thought about that. I thought
about that too, in the context of what we do every week.
Here?
Yes. I was thinking of, do we subject ourselves? We don't subject ourselves, but you can cut this part out, but damn, I was thinking, wow, it's weird. We do this every week. I mean, I subject my wife to it, I suppose.
I subject myself to working through the night to get it up to
you do indeed. Well, you do indeed. You do indeed. Okay. Anyway, moving along. Now we'll get to the real comment. Okay. The other thing, I had a look at the video from July 31 when Zach's streak ended. Now he's talking about Kenji Akashi.
That's right. One of your favorite fringe guys. Yeah.
One of my favorite fringe guys. And he said it's 2 home runs by a guy who plays every day. Well, he doesn't exactly play every day.
Yeah.
He's in that Hawks infield rotation.
He was playing every day in that series, I think, but he wasn't playing every day. Yeah.
Could have been, but he's basically a 200, 300 at bat guy. And if he played every day, he'd probably be about a 5 or 6 home run guy in a good home run park.
Maybe.
But the look that Zach give him, it's like, what the hey? Like, You gotta be kidding. It's like, and Tomoyo Mori, the Lions catcher, almost fell over backwards watching that ball go over the little inner fence into the home run terrace. He's like going, you gotta be kidding. It was a high 2-seam fastball. It wasn't where he wanted to put it, but you still have to think, well, it's Kenji Akashi, so, whatever. But it ran onto the barrel of the bat, and it just hit the sweet spot. It wasn't a big, ferocious swing, but it just carried. He hit it perfectly, and it carried out, and there you go. So, yeah, but I love the look on his face, like, oh, man. And his comments, the baseball gods were trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
That was good. That was a great line of questioning, and I'm glad you came back to it. So yeah, it's been good, and he's been good. I think it's the comment about all the games that he didn't lose during this streak, 23 or 34 or whatever, because really, I mean, the pitcher can't win a game on his own, but he can do a lot to lose it.
Right.
So if you're not, and what he said, and I know, of course, I remember games where he gave up a bunch of runs and they scored a bunch of runs, and I remember those to keep the streak alive, particularly this year early on. It's hard. It's hard to, things have to go right to win a lot of games, and to not lose that many in a row is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about the streak, I like the way he put it into perspective, and he said, okay, let's be real here. And, I told him about the streak that I was on as a rec league player, but I didn't mention that. I just told him I was on a streak, but it's a streak nonetheless. And those things, they start to play with your head, because you know what's important in terms of going out and trying to execute so that you can win. But you start to think, in this case, because it was a winning streak for him, you start to think maybe those thoughts that usually are in the back of your mind are now coming to the forefront, and they just weigh on your mind a little bit heavier. So I love the way he said that, let's be real here. And I also love the comment, baseball math, because I really haven't heard that phrase a lot before. We've always heard sample size, which is an completely arbitrary word that has no actual numeric value that all these baseball nerds like to assign to everything that they like to quantify. But sample size has none of that. But baseball math I really like, and the way he talked about it, and the way you would think, okay, if a guy who doesn't have that many home runs, what's the likelihood of him hitting a home run off me in this situation, and things like that. If you did the baseball math, you would think, okay, well, this is not likely. But he talked about his streak in that sense, and I thought that was really good. And then he talks about the difference in scoring with the Lions this season, and I thought that was an interesting comment, because obviously we're in a short interview format where it's not an hour that we're taking to break it all down. And I think he was obviously pointing to the fact, not pointing a finger at the team, but just pointing to the fact that the circumstances are a little bit different this year. And yes, for instance, Hotaka Yamakawa has been a little bit injured and he has missed some time. And Takeya Okawari Nakamura, he's hurt at the moment, and he's out of the lineup, off the roster at the moment. And Yuji Kaneko, who was the stolen base leader in 2016 and last year as well, and always, either if he walks or singles, he's instantly on second base, it seems. And he has 3 stolen bases this year, and that really changes the dynamics of their offense and their run scoring ecosystem that they have out there, where they just put guys on base, keep putting pressure on pitchers, and then they end up getting a home run from somebody. Now they've made up some of that, lack of offense with Ernesto Mejia just being able to roll out of bed and hit, it seems, at any time, at any age, and no matter how few bats he gets or opportunities he gets. And so that's why I asked him about these marvels on the team. I thought, man, guys like Mejia, you've got Nakamura, who just seems, he seemed to be less injured the past 3-4 seasons than he was early on in his career, when he missed a bunch of time just with knees and shoulders and various injuries that he's had. And then Takumi Kuriyama, the guy just hits. He just hits. And then Yamakawa with all his crazy mechanics. And remember, I think I said on the show last year that Hiromitsu Ochiai sat down or had some time with Yamakawa, and really I saw the interview on NHK last year. I think I talked about it on the show, and Ochiai said, you just got to get rid of that crazy leg kicking thing. And so Yamakawa this season has more of a toe tap kind of a situation. He still brings the leg up, but it's closer to a toe tap than it is starting a motorcycle, kick starting a motorcycle with that left leg, that front leg. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm looking at the team, and it's just a different dynamic. But like I said, I he thinks they're on a roll. He talked about Wataru Matsumoto, who pitched today, and he kind of gave it away. We were talking on Wednesday, and he said Matsumoto is going to throw on Sunday, and we don't get the pitching announcements that early. So luckily, we didn't get him in trouble since the game's over already. So that's good. But that was nice to know that he was going to throw. And I like Matsumoto. I think he has a lot of potential if he could just decide how he's going to stay in the strike zone with what he's trying to stay in the strike zone with, and then go out of the strike zone when he wants to. But interesting. I enjoyed the whole chat, and I had a really fun time talking to Zach, of course. And I have more questions for him, so we will ask him the next time we get him on the show.
I think that was kind of a small sample size. So.
Hashtag hi.
Are you one of those baseball nerds? Did I offend you?
No, you just sound silly. So I just leave it.
Oh, I sound silly. No, that's something that the baseball nerdy types have spread to the common man who says, well, it's not enough sample size anymore. But nobody has quantified this thing. Nobody has said, you know what a good sample size is? This number. I haven't heard it. Have you?
Sure. Depends on what you're talking about. I mean, let's say this. Okay, the very brief one. Something that is highly variable, you need a very large sample. So something like batting average. To know what a guy is capable of doing, you need thousands of at-bats. Okay?
Okay, that's a number.
It varies because there's so many different inputs, the defense and the pitching and so on and so forth. You need thousands of at-bats to get some kind of stability. And that's what you're looking for, stability in the numbers. Whereas things like home runs, which are very dependent on ability, and home runs both by pitchers and hitters, you need a much smaller sample size. Now, it again depends on what you're talking about. But if you had 1,000 at bats, you would have a really good sense of how often a guy hits home runs in general. But if you had 1,000 at bats, you'd still be a little fuzzy about where his true ability lies as a batter, in terms of batting average. That's what it means. It varies depending on how stable the data is. Very stable data is the most stable data is walks, strikeouts, and home runs.
All right. Well, yeah, if somebody is willing to put out a chart there and so that we can stop just throwing out the phrase.
Yeah, well, see, that's the problem. I mean, that's you're letting the fact that people who don't know what they're talking about spoil the phrase. Spoil it. People, that's the people who believe in batting average who tell you that these newfangled, batting average is everything, and these newfangled stats mean nothing when they don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to insult everybody, but I just think you go ahead and do that on your own.
Just a select sample of people.
Yeah, I'm just going to go for the nerds. Yeah, the nerds and the guys and the numbers who actually think they know what they're talking about when all they're doing is babbling about numbers. But anyway.
Oh man, boy, this is going to be a long one. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm not talking about you.
No, but I'm just saying that it's.
There are just too many nerds out there just throwing the number. I mean, we both listen to podcasts and other people talk about baseball, and I'm half in and half out. I understand that the numbers play a really important role, but at some point you got to get out there and play. And a lot of these guys don't play.
That.
And they don't know about what really happens.
There is that. But I also find that the more, there are people who think that numbers can tell you everything when it's sort of obvious they can't.
Right. And when we had Nick Martinez on the show and he talked about how he has delved into more of the kinetics about baseball and the numbers of baseball and all this stuff is very scientific. That was awesome. And that's where I am. I mean, he's doing it. He learns about the numbers and then he tries to apply it. But sure. The guys who just learn about the numbers and try to apply it, I'm not going with them. Anyway, we got to move along. Let's talk about the Lions. They've been starting. They've had their problems in the rotation. They've been starting Katsunori Hirai, and I was wondering what you thought about that, because I was thinking either it means that he's building up enough innings anyway out of the bullpen that he's basically a starter because he's throwing starter innings, so they might as well put him on the mound, or maybe he just kind of earned a spot, or maybe he just kind of fell into it because they ran out of people. What would be your
I
take?
think I want to think I like Katsuhiko Tsuji, and I suspect he has some idea, but I'll be darned if I know. I look at it. I don't see a pattern. We've had a ton of bullpen days, and then on one of those days when I think 4 teams were using relievers, Hirai was one of them, and I think if he's going to go 5 innings, he's really a starter. So I think they're going to stretch him out and let him start as long as he does as well as he did the first time and better than he did the second time.
Right. And they brought in Sean Nolan, the left-handed Johnny Cueto, and I had noticed this in his first start. I'm like, wait a second, I saw him do a Tiant twist there and a double leg kick, and he quick pitched a guy, and now he's winding up, and now he's not. And
he throws
and then Pro Yaku News beat me to it.
Quarters and yeah.
Pro Yaku News beat me to it because they saw it in his second start. And I'm like, no, I saw that first. We just didn't have a show. Stop it. Don't take my stuff. And but he even the at bat with, where there was one at bat with Nakata on Saturday where Nakata's like shaking his head like, what is this dude out here doing? He's dancing out here. So he is the left-handed Johnny Cueto.
Well, that's kind of a tough bar for anybody being Johnny Cueto, because he's he's unique with a capital U.
Yep.
But he's definitely got the Luis Tiant possibilities. He's not. I don't think he's up in the same class with Johnny Cueto, which would be, sort of like, Johnny Cueto's the Babe
I'm
Ruth.
Just saying he's
the Babe Ruth of that type.
All right.
Okay, so he's
just a literal.
Okay.
I'm just saying he gives you a lot of different looks.
He
I'm not
does.
saying he's putting
Okay.
up the same numbers.
No, I don't mean numbers. I just mean all the different the styles and the gyrations. I mean, Johnny Cueto is untouchable. I think he's, he's.
I haven't seen him do that double leg kick.
Okay.
The Cueque, as I like to call him.
Okay, there's lots of things, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll get him on the Cueto continuum.
Right. Okay. And obviously the loss of Shogo Akiyama. I guess attrition happens on a team. So let's just say Corey Spangenberg really has done a good job, considering this is his first year in NPB.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I hear a lot of people talking or saying, geez, he struck out again. He's leading the league in strikeouts, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it wasn't like Akiyama was the greatest hitter. He was really good. But I think they're replacing, they're just different guys. And he's replacing the power a little bit. Just not, I mean, it's his first year. I mean, I can't see if he's doing this much, if he's having this much production in his first season.
I think he's making good adjustments. Actually, I mean,
I think he's going to be even better next year.
He hits the ball really. He takes these really ferocious swings, so he's going to strike out a bit. I think he's going to probably make some adjustments to that, and maybe he does. I mean, it's just kind of his trademark. It's the big swings, swinging from the heels. And connecting, and the ball really zips off his bat. And then in the field, he's really he's very valuable in the field. He plays well at third base. He plays pretty well. I think third base is his best position that I've seen
really?
So far.
I'm not with you there. I actually think probably right field, left field is probably his best. Yeah,
right field maybe, left. It's just I think a lot of that is timing. What we see, the times we see it, and this, the times when I saw the time. Again, that goes back to the time I saw the first time I saw Tuffy Rhodes, and I thought, man, this guy's going to be out of Japan in a hurry. He can't play defense because he hadn't played right field in like 6 years, and he lost two balls against the wall at Yokohama Stadium. And I think, this guy's a bust.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe because Corey hasn't played a lot of third base recently, he hasn't actually come out strong since the injury to Nakamura has had people moving around, and they even had Yamakawa out there at third playing a game for the first time in 6 seasons. They said so. Yeah, but maybe that's it. But
Could be.
we need a bigger sample size.
Like him, he's a different player. What they lose in center field is guys who are not necessarily range, because Akiyama didn't have a lot of range anymore, but they've lost guys who know how to catch the ball. I mean, Akiyama was a guy, if he got to the ball, he was really good at, after he had what I believe was his his vision issues or something.
Right.
When he got to the ball, he was going to catch it. He was really sure-handed, and the guys they have now are less so. They're fast guys who are less good at catching the ball. Yeah.
Offense-wise, also, we talked about Mejia just being remarkable, but the 3-run homer he hit off of Alan Busenitz, I think was an 0-2 off-speed pitch this past week, inside off the plate, and he hits that for a 3-run home run, and that's the difference as the Lions come back and beat the Eagles up there in Sendai. And I just thought that was a remarkable piece of hitting just because it's an 0-2 off-speed pitch, and certainly you're probably thinking you're going to get something off speed, and it was off the plate a little bit. I don't think Busenitz wanted it exactly where it ended up, but it wasn't that bad a pitch. It might have been a little bit higher than he wanted, but man, oh man, you make mistakes to Mejia, you're gonna find a way. And this team is not producing as much offensively. I did talk about the stolen bases, but it's not only him. It's Shuta Tonozaki. He hasn't really been himself consistently either with the power numbers or the stolen bases, because he was another guy who was just running wild all the time. So I think the dynamics of this offense have they've just changed a little bit this season. So, and like I said, I fully believe that they're going to be in the last weeks of the season and still have an opportunity to get to the playoffs. But it's going to take some, like Zach said, they're going to have to turn it on. They're going to have to get hot. The pitchers we were talking about, like Takahashi and Matsumoto, they're going to have to do well. Sean Nolan's going to have to stay healthy and be able to go out there.
I certainly liked what I've seen from Sean Nolan. In fact, he's one of these guys who, when I see him, he's not the pitcher I imagined him to be from his minor league, from his U.S. numbers. And Miles Michaelis was another guy like that, where I looked at what he brought, because he was, I don't know, he was kind of an outlier in the States for a variety of basically guys who don't strike out a lot of guys. But when I see his pitches, I think, wow, he can bring it, and he can do some damage in the strike zone with that stuff.
Yep. So, at the moment, the Lions have 34 losses, and the only team with more losses in the Pacific League right now are the Buffaloes. So that makes sense that they're in 5th place, but everybody's kind of close. They need, they have 30 wins. The Eagles are in 3rd place, and they have 34 wins. So there's some work to do there. But I think they're fully capable of doing it as soon as everybody gets healthy and they get some consistency on the mound. But yeah, it's going to take some work, and we'll see how it goes.
Take some work is not a recipe for success. Is not a recipe for success.
Well, you can't quantify that, so I'm not listening to you.
Okay. Emphasize.
All right, let's talk about the PL and the CL races, and we'll start with the Pacific League. So I would say the biggest series this weekend for sure was the Marines playing at Fukuoka I'm going to call this Payback Dome, because instead of Pay Dome, because I honestly think the rest of the teams in the Pacific League are just sick and tired of the Hawks winning so much. and they're all conspiring to at least put out their best efforts on the field when they go up against this team. And so Lotte goes down there and sweeps a 3-game weekend series, highlighted by today. I don't know if it was highlighted necessarily, but I fully assumed the Hawks would really go out there and pound them today, and it just didn't happen. And I don't know, it was shocking because I said on Saturday that the jaws are dropping, and in part because the Marines keep hitting people in the mouth, and that's why the jaws are dropping. But they played really sharp games down there. They pitched well, they played good defense for the most part, and they hit just enough. And they won the game 4-2 today. Nothing really spectacular. No spectacular pitching performance per se. They didn't even have but 3 hits. And they still won the game. But the bullpen, really sharp again. And, we had Frank Herman on earlier this season. He had an inning, a scoreless inning today for a save. And I mean, it's just first save of the season. I don't know when the last time he had a save. I don't know the date.
It was 2018. He had 2018, he had 18 saves for the Eagles.
Okay. So, I talked about it when we had Brandon Laird on the show. I said this team I fully, can see them competing, but I was expecting them to compete for second place, not the top spot. So even I'm a little bit shocked, but how seriously are you taking them now that you've seen I'm sure you got to see 2 of the 3 games this weekend, if not all 3.
I watched most of all of them, to be honest. I think you don't want to. Well, the Marines are the team that they have. I'm not a fan of, they match up well against them, or, for this reason, or this pitcher gives this guy fits, but that they do have a kind of sympathetic resonance with the Hawks. They seem to have good plans against the Hawks.
Seem to have. Well, they were
today. I mean,
they were 7. Yeah, they were 17-8 against them last year. They're 8-3-1 so far this year. That's 5 in a row they've beaten them. I mean, 5 times in a row.
I watched today, and you can read about it on my blog jbln.com. I went into some depth with this, but it was Kota Futaki had a better fastball than usual.
Mm-hmm. He's the Marine starter today.
He's the Marine starter, but he really didn't have anything else. He throws a splitter a lot, and it's really not a very good splitter.
Okay.
And today was particularly a bad one. I think he did even the one he struck out Yuki Nagita in the first inning wasn't a really good one. He was just going for broke, as he does sometimes.
Right.
And he was missing it, and he was missing up in the zone with a flat, hanging fork ball, and his slider was he threw some beauties. He can throw them,
okay,
but mostly they weren't. The fastball was good, but he had a fastball, and he had these 2 other unreliable pitches that he used to keep people from hitting the fastball. And for 5 innings, it worked like a charm. And finally it's sort of, they caught up to the non-fastballs he was throwing. They were looking for him really early, and he was throwing the fastball a little more than usual, but it was really just clever. I mean, they set up the hitters really well. They attacked the guys. They worked really carefully to the 2 guys. They worked expertly to the 2 guys they really need to work, to really work on, who is Akira Nakamura and Yuki Nagita, and Gracial and Urisbel Gracial as well, and they completely shut him down. Basically, almost all with fastballs. So that they got a good one. He had a good one. It's not really fast, but it was it had a lot of spin on it today, and so that worked.
Yeah, it's all fine and good. I even if they win and take the Pacific League crown, they've got to beat somebody in the playoffs. So I fully expect, whatever team is finishing in second place to have, a different approach when they're playing the Hawks in the postseason, because the Hawks will have a different approach. But it's amazing to me. And the Hawks right now, they lead by a half a game over the Marines. They have 38 wins. The Marines have 38 wins. The difference is the Hawks have one loss fewer at 27. And then the Eagles with 34 wins are right there. They're in the race. And the other two teams, the Fighters and the Buffaloes, I don't see very much coming out of there. Like I said, the Lions, I think they have a chance. They've really got to turn things around. They've got to start producing. But we shouldn't be shocked about Lotte. And I think I was one of the only ones who had them finishing when we did our first Pacific League preview special. I think I had them finishing third. Not a lot of people had much faith in them. I did like the pitching, and I still like the pitching. And that rotation to me still seems like the rotation that has the best opportunity with the 6 guys who go out there each time to beat an opponent. I think I see a lot of fall off sometimes with the other teams with that back half of the rotation.
Yeah, they're probably the team least likely to use a bullpen day. I guess the one thing I am concerned about the Marines is we're talking about them right after they come off again, they play the Hawks really well and they play them really hard. And we're seeing them right now. We're talking about them in their absolute best light.
Sure, but they keep beating the top teams in the Pacific League. It's not like they're feasting off of the
right. But if they were playing, they had a weekend series with the Lions. I think this narrative right now would be different because they don't play the Lions particularly well. So,
all right,
So I think it's the timing here. Right now they're a half game back, but now they've got to go play a team they don't beat unless they're playing the Buffaloes this week. The two teams they do beat are the Buffaloes and the Hawks. So far, I don't mean it's. And again, it's not like they matched up against. Well, some of it is timing and some of it is other things. But yeah, they have shown a propensity to beat Tadahito Iguchi's old team senseless.
They're certainly shaking the cobwebs out. All right, in the Central League, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to call it. Looking up, just like in ER or one of these, Chicago Med or some Grey's Anatomy, time of death, September 6th. At whatever the time is, they're 7.5 games up on the Tigers and the Bay Stars, who are tied for second. And, I've been saying it the whole season. I don't see another team in the Central League that has enough consistency to come back on them. They might have talent, but nobody's shown the consistency. They're not pitching consistently. They're not hitting consistently enough to win enough games to make up all this distance between them. And it's, we're looking at mainly the Bay Stars and the Tigers. I think the Dragons are kind of in that loop, but they're basically they don't hit enough to actually be a threat in my mind. So I'm calling it. I think the Giants are going to walk away with the Central League title, and I don't think it's really going to be that close down the stretch unless somebody really important gets injured. But I can't even imagine who that is.
I don't see anybody challenging them. I mean, right now, CC Mercedes is back, and he's going to start tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Ruby De La Rosa is back. Sugano is pitching well.
And healthy. Yeah, hasn't lost yet.
Yeah, well, I think it's healthy means well. I mean, he just had a devastating slider his last game, and I thought, wow, he is back. He's making sinking it and making doing all the kinds of fun stuff, throwing it like darts again. So that's really fun. One of the other things about the Giants is they're very well organized. You may not like some of the things that Tatsunori Hara does, and you may not understand a lot of the things. I certainly don't. I don't want to pretend like I do, but they have they exhibit a kind of structure. They exhibit a kind of I don't know what, grace in motion. It's like you don't see accidental things. Although people would say using a position player to pitch, as a emergency reliever is accidental. And Hara's just another manager in many ways, but he's got so many options. And I think he knows, more or less. He's always well planned. And I know Alex Ramirez, when I asked him several years ago who influenced him most as a manager, and I expected him to say Tsutomu Wakamatsu, but he said Tatsunori Hara because of the way he executes late inning strategies in close games. He's really, it's monotonous, but he can be methodical. A pinch runner, and I hate all the pinch runners. I get so tired of him being that predictable, but he's kind of like a little, he's got his cyborg thing going on. So I think they can be beaten short term. Sure. I mean, they could lose a short series because baseball. Sure, yeah. But I guess my question of this whole exercise is, which Pacific League team couldn't beat the Giants in the Japan series? Now that's a whole different question from who's going to win the Pacific League, because just me, I think Oryx could even beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that situation. Yeah, sure. But yeah, we can't play that game because that's not going to happen. So
I should have liked it.
That's radio talk show fodder, when they don't have anything to talk about.
I know, that's the who'd win Martina Navratilova with a racket against Mike Tyson with both hands tied behind his back.
Right.
But sometimes you just got to ask. Okay.
All right, let's make a four-seam transition and talk about Kyuji Fujikawa of the Hanshin Tigers. And this past week, he announced that he plans to retire at season's end. Now, we could talk about him and his great fastball, and when he was in his heyday and when he went to the States, and how he only had 2 saves in the States. I was really disappointed in that because I thought he was going to do well. And like most Japanese pitchers who went to the States, he ended up having to have Tommy John surgery, so that played a role in him only finishing with 2 saves and. Of the obvious lack of results and all this stuff. But he came back to Japan. He pitched in indie ball to get ready to go back to MPB. And he came back, and I think I said on the show before, I talked to a foreign player at the time when he came back, and he said, man, his fastball isn't all that, but he couldn't hit it, didn't hit it. And Fuji-Q, as I've been calling him since I learned that there was a place called Fuji-Q Highland somewhere. Is that?
I figured that was it. Okay, I'm glad to confirm that with the man.
Yeah, that is some an amusement park. Where is it? The amusement park?
Oh, it's in Yamanashi Prefecture near Mount Fuji somewhere on the
I drove up there
Fuji-Q on the Fuji Railroad.
Okay, yeah, I drove out there a long, long time ago when I was living in Nagoya, so I didn't know where I was going. But anyway, so my question or the exercise we want to do tonight is he's 5 saves shy of the 250 needed to be in the Golden Players Club. And I don't know, we're more than halfway through the season. He's in the minors, or he's on the farm team with the Tigers, in part because of injury, but mostly because he needed to work on some things. And yes, he's probably coming back soon, but I just don't see 5. I don't see 5 saves in this season with a team that's competing for the pennant when there's no playoff situation or no playoff scenario in which they only have to finish in the top 3. They've got to win the pennant to get into the Japan series. So I'm not sure that I see 5 save opportunities. And this guy's been a role model for closers. I'm sure in Japan, he's bigger than you think. He's taller than I am, and I'm 6 feet tall, and he's a little bit heavier. And he was pitching in the era with the likes of Mark Kroon and Kazuhiro Sasaki and Hitoki Iwase, and guys who really left a mark.
Mm-hmm.
So I think MPB sees him as a national, a kind of a baseball treasure. But if he's short of the Golden Players Club, how's he going to get in?
He ain't.
You think they're going to change the rules or something, or bend the rules?
Change the rules again to get him in. They changed the rules so they could get Sasaki in.
Right.
I don't think they are, but here's the thing. If they let Shintaro Fujinami start a few more games, then he'll have plenty of games. He'll have a lot of chances to save because they'll be out of the pennant race.
Hashtag
that's just me.
Well, they said Fujinami down, though.
That's me joshing around because I really like Shintaro Fujinami, and I hope he gets it all together. Right now, he's not all together.
No.
But he has electric stuff, but he's just completely inconsistent. So, do I think? I think it all depends on when the Tigers are eliminated. If they're eliminated 3 weeks before the end of the pennant race, then yes, he'll have a chance. Or
because they still have to create save opportunities for him, and I'm not sure they're capable. 5, save opportunities. It's really a dicey situation. What are you going to do? Try to not score that fourth run so you can get him out there? I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, there was he has that in his history. I mean, he had one of the saves. Actually, one of the saves he didn't get was the famous save when. And I actually asked. I remember he and I talked about this. He says, "I remember that game. He was. They were trying to get him the single season save record." Manager Akinobu Okada, and this was, I think, 2010 or 2000. I was still at the Yomiuri, 2009 maybe. Anyway, they're trying to get him the saves record, and he had pitched in like 10 consecutive games.
Yeah,
and they brought him out, and they'd had some off days in that stretch. So it was like, it wasn't 10 days in a row, but it was like 3 days in a row and 2 days in a row and a day off, and then one game and a day off and 2 games. Anyway, they brought him out in a game that would have been a save, would never have been a save in the majors, but would have been a save in Japan for some years because they mistranslated the save rule when they brought it to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and I'll toot my own horn. They found out that they mistranslated because one day I went to the Pacific League office and I said, "Why is this a save?" And so they looked and they found out it was wrong. Anyway, so some years, about 5 years after that incident, they changed the definition of a save, and manager Akinobu Okada didn't know it. So he brought Fujikawa in with basically an inning to pitch with a 6-run lead and a bunch of guys on base. And that would have been a save previously. And when he found out it wasn't a safe situation, he says, "I never would have used my best pitcher if I hadn't known it was, he was playing to this is what happens. He was playing to the stat. He wasn't playing to win, because if he'd been playing to win, he would have used a different pitcher, but he was doing it to get a save." So I asked him about that. I said, "I remember that. It was kind of weird. The whole situation was weird, but they do like Japan does put a lot of effort into winning into creating individual accomplishments for teams, players. The players buy into getting individual milestones for their teammates. It's sort of like it's part of the team thing. Oddly enough, the individual thing is part of the team thing, but so I suspect that there will be a point, if he can do it. I mean, he did start the season as the closer, and he was remarkably effective last year. Mm-hmm. If he regains his effectiveness, I have no reason to doubt that he will be nearly as good as he was last year. I don't know what it is that's keeping him from being nearly as good as he was last year. But right now, Robert Suarez is growing into that job, and they're not going to want to move him, just on the hunch. If Fujikawa comes back and he pitches really well, then it's game on. And if he doesn't, then it doesn't matter how many games they have left to play. If he can't do the job, it's not going to matter how many games they give him to get saves.
Yeah, those little hamster cheeks are just going to have to be sad, I guess.
But he's such a. And the last thing I'll say is, you mentioned that he went to the independent league. He went back to his home prefecture to play independent ball. He in fact turned down offers to play from NPB teams and played in an independent league. And I asked him. Actually, I didn't even ask about him. I'd kind of forgotten about it. But he said, when I came back from America, I was sort of disillusioned about baseball in general. He said he really learned when he was in the majors that baseball is a business.
Right.
He never felt that before. It was always his passion. It was passion. But when he got, I think the Cubs kind of taught him a lesson. You're not useful. Take a hike, buddy. And when he went to the Rangers, he sort of sorted things out a little bit. And when he came back, he said, I wanted to go and pitch an independent league ball where money wasn't the issue, to see if this is what I really wanted to do. So it wasn't like he was trying, anybody would have taken, teams were tripping over themselves to get him.
Yeah.
But he wanted to see if it was he. I think that's, I think it's his fitness right now. But
I hope he gets the 5 saves.
I do too. But if he doesn't, he's. I'm not going to lose any sleep over him because I have such a high opinion of him to begin with. It's not going to change my opinion of him one bit. So.
Well, it's not about opinion; it's about that golden jacket. So
it is indeed, and getting to play golf with Rami-chan in Hawaii every year. Nothing's better than that.
All right. Let's make a 2-seam transition and talk about our top players of August. Yay! So I'm sure that we'll start in the Central League because I'm sure it's the easier of the two. And I went through some of the numbers and I thought, okay, this is going to be easy. It has to be Yudai Ono of the Dragons because he is the only guy who has thrown complete games every time he went out there on the mound and blah, blah, blah. And then I started looking at the numbers and I'm like, oh, wait a second.
Exactly.
He does have an awesome ERA at 0.67. His whip 0.59 is microscopic, but he only threw 3 games for some reason. And I don't even know how that works out, that he threw 3 games.
No, I don't either. And there are 2 guys who are 4-0, Tomoyuki Sugano and Masato Morishita. And I would have said, and I would probably bet you $50 that 5 years ago, one of those 2 guys would win because they would go 4 wins beats 3 wins, get out of here.
That's right.
Times have changed, however.
Even though they're complete games, yeah.
Yeah. Times have changed, and the complete games is a good thing. The ERA is a good thing. All the other stuff makes me think Ono is probably the guy, despite the win. I think times have changed. Sugano, great month. Morishita, great month. If they pick none of those guys, this is one of the ones where if any of those guys get the award, the other guys shouldn't feel snubbed because what are you going to do? They all had great months and they won't award it to more than one guy. So
yeah, you said I don't know how Ono only had 3 games. It's just so weird. And I remember I was
he must have skipped a start once.
Well, I was talking to Alonso, and after he threw one of his complete games, they gave him an extra day of rest.
Okay, and that fit right.
That pushed him into September,
okay.
and he lost basically a start. But I did look at the innings pitched, and the thing that compares to Sugano is Sugano had 4 games, but he only pitched 30 innings compared to Ono throwing 27 innings because he threw 3 complete games. So that's not that far apart. He had a lot of strikeouts. He struck out a lot of guys. I know they like the strikeouts. I know they like the ERA. And I don't know, man. I really don't know.
No, I think, again, I like him. He would be my pick. But if they picked Sugano, I wouldn't be upset about it. If they picked Morishita, I wouldn't be upset about it. But if there's any sort of old fart you
Oh
know,
no, that's not right.
any kind of old fart sympathies, then they'll go, yeah, five. I mean, three complete games. I can already hear the Sawamura Award people drooling,
Oh yeah.
like going, "Can we just give it to you now before somebody ruins it?"
I'm just curious, what does listening to drool sound like? Because I wouldn't know it if I heard it. But anyway, what about hitter?
I'm still. I think you have to get out more.
Sounds like I don't. Okay. What about hitter?
COVID-19 world? No. I am. My choice in the Central League is Munetaka Murakami.
Huh.
And although I think Keita Sano is going to get some votes because he's got all the RBIs, but he's got the Murakami's got the batting average and that they like. He's the batting leader and he's done everything else, but
He wasn't the batting leader in August, though. Yeah.
he wasn't.
It was Chikamoto.
Oh, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, but he still hit 345. Okay, he still hit 345, which is good enough. I mean, he was up among the batting leaders. And then you take, of course, they don't care. Again, times have changed. I mean, it used to be you could bat 300 all singles and with no walks, and they would go, "Oh, isn't he a good player?" But no, I mean, I can't see why they would pick Chikamoto over a guy who does everything else. But you never know. There's morons still. But
All right.
Sano might get it because of the RBIs.
I was looking at the numbers, and I was ready to pick Murakami as well because his OPS was over 1,000, and Chikamoto is not a power hitter, but in August, Chikamoto had 6 doubles and 2 triples. And of course, he's not going to hit home runs because that's not what he does. But he had 10 RBIs, and that matched Murakami. And the runs scored were the thing for me. And I know you like the runs scored.
I do, but of course, and he's a leadoff hitter, so that's not so surprising.
But he had more than twice the number of runs scored of Murakami.
Yeah. That's important.
And he stole 5 bases, and they also have a stat of runs that he knocked in with runners in scoring position, and he more than doubled Murakami's total in that respect as well. So I'm gonna say Chikamoto gets the nod because he just fills out more the stat line. But I don't know that we're gonna probably debate about these players for a long time. I say he had a better all around, including defense and base running and all the other things that go along with playing baseball, better season than Murakami did in the rookie seasons. But
no, he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't. And so we're going to debate that forever.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or disagree forever. Probably never debate it.
The debate gets tiring. Nothing has been said nothing has happened since then that's going to change anything.
You're right. All he did was hit home runs and play bad defense. But anyway, where are we? Let's go to the Pacific League.
We're not listening is what we're not doing. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are we? Well, that's where we are. We're not listening. Okay. Let's move on then.
All right.
You're not thinking.
Right. Yes. Pacific League, who's your top pitcher you think that they're going to choose?
Oh, man. Again, also equally difficult. I'm actually probably not as difficult. We have two Ishikawas, Ayumu Ishikawa of the Marines, 4-0 with a 3.46 ERA, and Shuta Ishikawa of the SoftBank Hawks, 3-0 with a 1.46 ERA. I like everything about Shuta Ishikawa of the Hawks. The Hawks Ishikawa, I like everything. Ayumu Ishikawa basically has got the wins, and then let's just pretend everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah, I thought I actually put down Ayumu as a dark horse. But I thought Hideaki Wakui, even with his 3-1 record, I thought he might get the nod.
Right.
I don't even know. Again,
Go
we're
for one
trying
last
to
time.
imagine what these people.
I don't think
Yeah,
that matters.
we're trying to imagine what these people are factoring in. We try and we try and we try, but Walkley had the most innings pitched, which for me is probably something that they are going to look at, I think. But again, the 3-1 record doesn't help. But I think his 1.47 ERA does, and so I'm going to say he gets the nod. I'm going to go with Walkley.
Okay. I mean,
All right.
I wouldn't be overly annoyed with that. I thought he pitched really well.
He did.
Walkley had finger issues the last couple of starts. You saw him when he lost his first game of the year, staring at his finger like he'd hurt the nail or pulled off a bit of the nail or something, and he was doing that again the other night.
Okay. All right, no problem. Yeah, what about position players? So for me, I thought, okay, this is really going to be easy. It has to be...
Oh.
Huh? Oh? No, it has to be Masataka Yoshida of the Oryx Buffaloes. He got a hit today. He has a 24-game hitting streak. He's hitting 430 in the month, or he did hit 430 in the month. Can't say enough about everything, although he just only had 2 home runs. He had 8 doubles. He had 15 RBIs, which wasn't even the most. And then I went down the list and I saw Taishi Ota of the Nippon Ham Fighters. And I thought, okay, well, let's look at the rest of the numbers. And Ota, he hit 366, which, in a normal month would be really good. But he had 19 RBIs, a bunch. He had 4 home runs. His OPS was 950. He's a dark horse. I think he gets some play in this.
Yeah, he wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah, he wasn't on mine either. Other guys hit better. Even Kensuke Kondo of the Fighters hit better.
As for who led the league in OPS, it was Yuki Yanagita.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I mean, traditionally they've gone with the guy, somebody hits. It used to be, again, this is a back in the day thing because they have changed a little bit. I noticed within the last year there was some change. Used to be, if this had happened 2 years ago, 100% Masataka Yoshida because he hit 430 last month. But no, times have changed. He still has but he has the gaudy on, and for me, gaudy on base percentage. He's just all around good. It's really hard to see that he isn't a good player, that he didn't have a good month. But there were a lot of guys who had good month, and as you pointed out earlier, that Sho Nakata could do it because he drove in so many runs.
Yes.
He had 31 RBIs, so somebody could pick him, and I wouldn't be, he only hit 286, but that's okay. I mean, Leonis Martin had a wonderful month, but he hit 239, so he's out.
Yeah, I was looking at this list to see where he was. I'm like, where's Martin? He has so many home runs. And then I'm like, he's not even on the list.
So he is, so that's interesting. It is really interesting. I think Yanagita had this sort of broad-based offensive accomplishments that really help you win games, which won't help you win awards.
Mm-hmm.
He drew a lot of walks. He hit home runs. He didn't hit for average. He didn't have a ton of RBIs. So my thing is, they're going to want somebody who did something. Okay, I'll say it. You win awards in Japan by being a safe bet. By being the guy that no one will criticize. If you vote for Martin, well, you can't vote for somebody who bats 235. If you vote for Yanagita, well, you only drove in 24 runs. If you vote for Yoshi, it's going to be, you have to have a reason so that nobody, and if you have to have a reason that people won't blame you for voting for them.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Yoshida is probably the safest bet. Kensuke Kondo is a good bet, but you can't vote for him and not vote for Yoshida because they were similar players and one of them had a higher batting average. Nakata would be a different bet. But I think Yanagita, who is my favorite bet, won't win it because he was less outstanding in one category. Well, he did hit 10 home runs, but so did Lannis Martin.
Okay. All right. I think they're going to come out this week, so we'll learn soon. And before we go, one note. I was ashamed to say, or I'm proud to say, I don't know. I'm proud to say that I learned something about baseball rules. I'm going to be proud to say it because I didn't know this. So in a game recently this week, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, Scott McGuff of the Swallows had 2 runners on base. So they were on second and third. They were actually on first and third, but he threw a pitch. He threw a pitch, and the runner on first moved over to second. And I don't know that he was aware that happened. And then he ends up on an ensuing pitch. He threw over to check the runner at first base, and there was no runner. The base was unoccupied. It was also unoccupied by his first baseman. And this was Thursday, I remember now. So he ends up throwing the ball down the right field line, and it was a balk. And this is what I learned, because I had always seen when umpires call balks, they throw their hands in the air to signify that the ball is dead. But in this case, there were no umpires on the screen that I could see in the replays. So I was trying to figure out why the runners were allowed to come around and score. I thought they would only get one base. And it turns out there's a funky rule. And you looked it up, did you?
I did. Well, somebody informed me that was not the case. And basically, the rule is, and it's if MLB's rule is different, I think it is. I think it's just is written poorly. It says if the batter is safe at first on whatever play there was a balk, or the runners all advance at least one base, then the play continues without reference to the balk. I mean, there's still a balk charged, but otherwise the ball is dead. So because the runners all advanced, there was no chance for the batter to advance. Because
he didn't throw. Yeah, he didn't throw
right.
the pitch. Yeah.
Okay, and just to clear it up, so rule number 1 is you throw to an empty base, it's a balk. And I thought, and several other people said, well, how come the ball wasn't dead? How come the runner on second didn't have to stop at third? And the answer was the one I gave you, which is if the runners all advanced at least one base, they get to keep going as long as they could.
Right. So at their own peril, they can advance. So I did not know that. I thought the ball was dead on a balk.
Because 9 times out of 10, the runners aren't going anywhere.
Or, sometimes when you throw to an unoccupied base, it's third base or second base. It's not usually first base. So I had never seen it. So I got to learn something about baseball. So I'm going to say I'm proud to have said that I'm proud to have learned that, because you want to learn things when you watch games, and I did learn something in that particular game.
I learn something every day.
And you forget something every day at your age, buddy.
Oh, geez, are you kidding me?
Hashtag high heat.
All right, guys, no high heat this week, so we need some for next week. If you have some questions or comments, send them to yakyujohn@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at JBW Podcast, or leave us a note on Facebook. Check out
jballallen.com.
Yeah, that's it. And we will talk to you next week. Enjoy your baseball.
See you at jballallen.com. You can hear it again.
Follow the hosts on Twitter at JBW Podcast and at JBallAllen. Be sure to send in your questions with hashtag high heat, and you'll hear from us again next week.